Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is one of your hosts, Mark Hyde, and today, again, we're going back RTC on the road. Back in the summer, we had the opportunity to go to Revive Fest, where we were able to MC the event. We were able to teach a workshop, which you guys heard here just a couple weeks ago, and also got to meet so many of you folks in person, and that was the biggest highlight for us, at least, of that weekend. But we wanted to make sure we took advantage of the time, and so on the way home, Fuller and I decided to record some more episodes in the car. And so for this episode and the following episode, you're going to hear our thoughts as we were driving back home each night from Revive Fest. And this specific episode has a theme all around it based off of questions that you guys have asked us, primarily revolving around the church. So things, for example, of when should you leave a church? When should you stay at the church? What should you do if your spouse doesn't want to go to church with you? Or maybe if your spouse wants to go to a different church. And then even the bigger dilemma of when life gets in the way of Sunday morning, how should you respond to that? So in this conversation, we answer all these types of questions and more in this conversation. And what's really funny is I don't think it's this episode where we get pulled over. I think it's this one where we almost hit a deer on the way home. So it's always a party with us here in RTC land. But just like always, if you are new to the show, make sure you check out our online Facebook community where there are almost 2,500 other Christians who are in some way, shape, or form going through their spiritual journey. And I can guarantee that if you feel alone and you're wondering, hey, is there someone else out there like me who's dealing with this? The answer is yes. And it can be found in the Facebook group. If you've been here for a long time, or if you are a rewinder, or now the new term inside the group is the rewinders as you're going through your third time, which I think is just absolutely incredible. We love you guys. We are so thankful for you as well. Make sure you leave a rating review anywhere podcasts can be found, but get your coffee. I got mine here right now. Of course, it's in my beautiful, wonderful Notre Dame Fighting Irish mug because yeah, I mean, we're 2-2 right now, and we're college playoff bound. That's what we gonna do right now. So I got my coffee here. I hope you grab your coffee, and I'll turn it over to us in the car. Hey, what is up, RTC guys?
What's going on?
We are pooped.
We are. We're leaving Revive Fest right now. It's about 10:50 at night. We're slotted to be home right around midnight, and we got to be back tomorrow by now that we don't have to open the tent, I don't think we really have to be there.
Yo, guys, we got hooked up this year. I feel like I'm losing my voice a little bit, but we did not have to use our own tent.
No, we had a tent provided for us, which is a huge help.
Gosh, you guys don't even know.
It definitely lessened the setup time.
And even just takedown, because so the way it always works, right, guys? We get to the campgrounds. Well, let's back up. We always get to the campground.
Right.
We drop off our stuff.
Yep.
We set up our tent. That probably takes about an hour to get all of our stuff set up.
Yeah, probably an hour and a half.
And today we literally walked in, set up our stuff in 10 minutes, and we're done.
It was 30, but I got
no tent. All we had to do was put our table up and our giveaways and all that kind of stuff.
And then we bounced to Curly's.
Which, guys, if you've been following us after Revive Fest, we always talk about Curly's.
Yeah. In Colon, Michigan.
Which, by the way, magic capital of the U.S. for some reason.
It is.
Which makes no sense. It's a town of maybe, I don't know, a couple thousand people, a few thousand people in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. And it's hey, we're the magic capital of the U.S. And they have,
it's just so random.
Every single storefront has posters after posters of all these
rabbit
shows.
Yeah, rabbits it's weird. It's weird.
It's just weird. But
it's cool.
But there's a spot Curly's we go to, and it's always good.
Yeah.
Always good. But we thought it was a little weird because we walked in, all the chairs were the same. They were all new. It was all clean.
Brand new menus.
Brand new menu. They took off some of our favorite things, which was a little sad.
Yeah,
it was a little sad not to get that buffalo chicken wrap.
Man,
you know what I mean?
that
buffalo chicken is banging. But we still got some burgers.
Yep.
We got we were kind of cute. We were cute. We twinned. We got the same smash.
Except for you got the onion rings and I got the fries.
But you didn't get curly fries though. And
no.
I feel like that was a slap in the face to curly.
I didn't. You know what I mean? They didn't have the option for curly fries.
Did you ask?
No, but it just said fries. They only had one type of fries on the menu.
And Beth, just so you know, I had water. I did not have pop. I did good. I was a good little boy.
I had a Mountain Dew. Which I probably should have pre-gamed with water because it was so hot.
Oh gosh! But then we found out while we were at Revive Fest that it's under new management,
right?
So that's why it felt different, looked a little different, but still good.
It was still delicious.
Like that is a tradition we have had for the last 4 years,
right?
Of every time we set up, we go to Curly's.
Yeah, so we had a hard time figuring out how many years we've been actually at Revive Fest, and then we had to count it out, and we're like, okay, this is our 4th Revive Fest we're doing, which is kind of cool. I mean,
it's really cool.
It's kind of cool that we've been doing it for this long.
And it is a pleasure. So, Matt, if you're listening, bro, we want to say thank you for the privilege and the opportunity for actually being able to MC the event. And it was good. Like, it's a lot of fun to go up and interact with the crowd. We're tossing out candy, tossing out glow sticks.
We got people coming up to us like, you guys are so funny. And we're like, really?
My wife thinks I'm funny looking. But
my wife says I smell funny.
That's true. But she loves you anyways, my guy. But I do have to commend you, bro, because every year you always whip something out your back pocket for Revive Fest.
So this year was the spinning wheel. And it's been a hit. Like, we've had lines coming up to spin the wheel.
Yep. Now I do say we had to like tone down our giveaways because we gave away like most of our chosen stuff,
right?
In our swag bags in the first hour before like the gates even open.
We're gonna be out of everything tomorrow.
Besides glow sticks, we have like 800 more glow sticks. So I think we'll be able to glow stick department.
The small ones,
yeah.
The large ones we got like 60 left. But yeah, we're gonna blow through all of them. We're gonna give away so much stuff tomorrow. It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, it was a little soggy. Setting up.
Oh, dude.
We had to stop and go to our vehicle because of lightning.
Which, that was new.
That was the first time.
We've never had to do that.
No. But during that time, somebody got baptized in the river during that whole lightning scare, which was interesting. Like,
so maybe it was just heaven opening up, Holy Spirit coming down, but it's thunder. You're really giving your life to Jesus.
You're meeting Jesus. You might meet Jesus.
Gonna meet Hulk Hogan too while you're at it.
Oh, and Phil Robertson and everybody else. And
just in general, Ozzy Osbourne passed away, and then someone else just passed away too. Like
that music artist. What's his name?
No, I was gonna say the dude from the Cosby Show, the oldest Cosby son. Like he just passed away too.
It's been a crazy month.
It has been a crazy month of people passing away. But that's not what we were talking about. But so needless to say, we asked you guys months ago. Like I had to go back. It was mid-May when we were getting ready to go to the wedding for Ryan and Evan Smith, and which was a wedding,
awesome,
by the way. And we are going to a wedding next weekend. We're driving separate.
Eli Smith,
Pastor Smith's son, which that makes me feel.
We are going to a lot of Smith weddings.
A lot of Smith weddings. Different Smith. Oh, another deer. Well, guys, so we did not hit that deer.
No, we didn't.
But for some reason, the audio was just like, we're done. Like, we don't want to record anymore.
Just in case we hit the deer.
We don't want to record anymore. But, so needless to say, what I was going to say after the deer passed for a little bit, pray we don't see another deer.
I'm sure we will.
We probably will. These Michigan roads are wild. We asked you guys months ago about some different podcast topics that we wanted, that you guys wanted us to talk about. And so we kind of put them into some different themes around different topics that you guys had.
Right.
And there was a couple questions you guys had about church attendance, about if your spouse doesn't want to go to church, what should you do?
Right.
There's another question around the whole idea of when is missing church ever okay? That was a huge conversation inside the podcast community. And then there was another one of when is it the right time to leave the church that you're in? So for this one, Fuller, I figured, we're in the car. We're driving. We actually might need to turn the AC on, so there's a little bit of background noise. Just ignore it because we don't want to die from fogged windows.
Yeah,
because it is.
We're all right.
It's like 100% humidity right now.
So I even match the temperature outside with the inside, and it's still not helping.
It is nuts. Yeah. So needless to say, bro. Okay, so we'll start with the first question in this little, on the road with RTC.
Sure.
So let's start with church attendance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of when is it ever okay to miss a church service?
Well, I would say that the purpose of church, it goes back to the assembly of the body together, right? And so I would say as long as you're meeting with brothers and sisters and having that that one-on multiple relationship in some way, I don't necessarily think the day is as important as the community. It is important to an extent, but it is not the main thing. The relational aspect is more important than what day, where you're going, and that kind of stuff. So
would you say then, like instead of going to church, like people say, oh, I don't go to Sunday morning, but I go to a small group. Like, is that still good enough?
I would say that is okay to do. I wouldn't do it all the time because there's a lot of good stuff on like a Sunday morning, having a church community more than just a small group. The thing I fear with small groups is I belong to 2 house churches in my youth, and they're basically the same size as a small group would be, and without direction, without oversight, and not oversight from a pastor, I'm not talking about that, but oversight from the body, they fell into some pretty bad doctrine.
Okay.
And so it's not that I think that you couldn't, I just think it's more dangerous to be out there with just a small group. I think there's safety in numbers and in a bigger community that can lean and glean from each other.
So for someone, though, who would be like, because, we have a lot of different people in the podcast community when it comes to whether it be, oh, dude, that's a horse and buggy, like straight up Amish.
That's just, yeah.
Yo, what's up, Amish folk? 1 horsepower right there, baby. And now we're at a stop sign. I don't know how you can see out this front windshield, bro. But there's a lot of people in the podcast community who I know who have been hurt by the church,
right? Or
they just can't find one that they gel with or vibe with. And so, in one regards, I'm like, I don't know, like obviously being a pastor, right? And, wanting to always serve in the local congregation. I never have understood when folks are like, I'm good with just not going to church. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, once in a while, I'm just okay, full disclosure, we dished on Father's Day, which is not normal for me. Like, very much Father's Day, we in church.
Right.
But we wanted to do something different, and we wanted to enjoy it with the kids. And even the kids, though, which I think this is kind of cool, all the kids were very confused. We're like, but Dad, it's Sunday. Why aren't we going to church? But Mom, why? Shouldn't we be going to church if we're Christians? Which I'm like, okay, so at least we got our heads on straight in terms of the kids know is we go to church. But then the question is, well, then why do we go to church?
Right.
And if, you can get sermons from podcasts, you can get sermons from lectures and whatever, and you can study the Bible on your own, but there's something to be said about the gathering of the body and the gathering of the saints. And this is where different church traditions come in, right? Like some church traditions are all about, the communion table. Like Presbyterians and Lutherans, where the entire service centers around the Lord's Supper. And the fact of, if you're not there, you don't get to participate in that grace that's been given to us. Or for the Catholics, taking part of the Eucharist. Or for us as Baptists, it'd be, sitting under the teaching of God's Word. We all kind of have different focuses of the worship service, and you miss that when you don't go.
Absolutely.
And so, I do think there's a time and place to not miss it. Now, going back a few episodes, there was a time where we did that episode, gosh, I don't know, first 20-something episodes, where we talk about youth and sports and how so many times parents take their kids out of church to go compete with sports.
Sure.
So, at the same time, we don't want to teach our kids that more things are oh, we go to church, but only when our schedule's free.
Yeah.
And so how do we balance that then?
Well, it's pre-prioritizing God. If you're missing church and it's a one-time off thing, that's one thing. Okay, I may not always go to church when I go on vacation, right? And then, I work on some Sundays, so I may not go to church. I watch the sermon online later on, but I may not actually make it to the Sunday service. So there's one-offs, and then there's habitual action. And I think where you're prioritizing your time, are you prioritizing your time to go outside and do the zoo or sports and using Sunday as just a recreational day? Or are you prioritizing God with some exceptions in there? And I think that's really where the rubber meets the road.
And so for folks who kind of, I know some of our listeners, one in particular, they've reached out and said, hey, I'm not able to go to church because I have a job.
Yeah.
But I know they're still in college.
Sure.
And so they go to chapel on Wednesdays, or there's other folks where it's I've always worked on Sunday, so they're I don't even know how to get to church.
Sure.
So I guess my next question would be is what encouragement would you have for folks who is I am a Christian, whether young or old, I want to be part of a local body, I want to be part of a church, and I either A, can't because of life circumstances, or B, for whatever reason, they just can't find a church to get connected and plugged in.
Yeah. Well,
which is a big question.
I would say with the church that can't find, don't give up hope. Sometimes you got to go through several bad churches to find a good church. That's what Janelle and I did. We did not go from the church we were at previously to Southside. We went through a few other churches before we finally landed up at Southside over a few months.
So how long was that search? Was that
probably about 3 months? We were going to a different church every single week trying to find a fit. We finally landed on Southside, and it's been a blessing, the biggest blessing we could have ever hoped for. It's one of the best churches I've ever belonged to, and that's what I would say. I have our friend, on the podcast, my friend Paul.
Yep. Good old Paul Lindgren.
Him and his family were on a church search for 2 years.
Dang, 2 years?
Before they finally landed on a church, and they are absolutely in love, and they're both getting connected and serving, and their kids love it, and that's only been just over a year that they've been at that church now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that took a long time.
Yeah, just because it takes a long time, don't be discouraged. Keep on checking things out, and find where God wants you. For the people that may have life circumstances, say work, work is not a bad thing, but if work is keeping you away from God, and I'm not saying the church service, I'm saying keeping you away from God, you might need to reprioritize your life. Find another job, and I'm not saying quit today. Go find another job, then maybe turn it, or something like that. See what if God will open doors for you, and if He won't, then stay where you are. But I know there's people that have bad health, right? That can't,
like
can't get
shut-ins.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those people, I would say just try to stay connected the best you can via, telephone, texting, social media, whatever that may be.
And that thought pops in my head. But those are folks who want to be at church. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so sometimes I feel like, and I'm not saying the person asked this question is even thinking this.
Sure.
I don't think it is. But, I do think that there's a motive behind the question based on who's asking.
Absolutely.
Because there's some people who want the excuse of, you don't always have to be at church. Like they're looking for the out rather than dude, I really want to be at church and I just can't because of whatever.
And I would say if you're looking for the out, then you've already lost the prioritization of church. You don't understand the value in the body. And so you need to, I would say, seek out for yourself what value there is in the body. Now, I'm not saying your local body, but in the body in general. And then ask God if it's important for you to be there or not.
And there's something to be... this buddy's got his high beams on. Holy crap.
There you go.
Thank you. Oh, it was a big old F-350 too. So, whoo. We about had a call on the road to Damascus right there.
That was very, very bright.
Jeez, okay. And, but with that whole thought then, let's kind of segue a little bit. All right, bro. So, when we're looking for a church, because you looked for a church when you guys were looking for Southside.
And
I looked for a church when we were looking for New Life.
Right.
How did you guys determine that in terms of what you were looking for and through what lenses were you guys processing?
So I can only speak to our journey, right? And so the first...
No, you got to speak to everybody's journey, bro.
Okay.
Everybody's.
All right. So everybody's journey should line up with mine, especially Mark's. No, but I would say...
Going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship. Like that journey?
Sure.
Floating through the sky. It's almost midnight, guys. We're losing it. We're losing our marbles.
Mark's a little slap.
Little Einstein.
All right. Anyways, so our journey, it took place of lots of prayer before we ever left the church we were at. Months of prayer. We're gonna get rain. Boom! Sorry.
Well, the farmers are watering their fields tonight, folks. Man, we're not gonna make it home. We got multiple deer, F-350 high beams, farmers watering, and we're not even
halfway home.
We're barely out of the colon of Michigan.
I think we're getting near Constantine, but
gotta be close.
So I would say, so our journey was one of a lot of prayer before we ever left, and then when we decided to leave after talking to pastoral staff about some doctrinal issues, we decided to leave. And
so I want to pause there real quick. So you guys didn't just up and be like, peace, we're out.
No.
You guys actually talked to the pastors and elders of the church.
We cared about the body that we were in, and it was very hard for us to leave. I mean, we didn't want to leave. It's just doctrinally we could not. They weren't staying within biblical grounds with some very key things. And I don't want to, talk bad about a church or anything like
No,
that.
but they it wasn't like secondary issues or even tertiary issues.
Yeah,
it was main things.
Yeah, main doctrinal issues. And so when we decided to leave, what we did was we were looking online at statements of faith, the doctrines that they had or taught on. We would try to find YouTube videos that they might have, and try to watch one of their sermons online and stuff like that to kind of preview the church before we ever went. And then once we found a candidate that we thought would maybe be good, we would go. And we did that for a few churches. And either the church was cold or, it wasn't very welcoming.
Oh, cold, like as in like, kind of like.
Yeah, cold like you were a new person and nobody said nothing.
Oh, interesting.
Never even acknowledged you were there.
That's awkward.
And then, and then there were churches that did not line up with their statement of faith, which I thought was interesting.
Whoa, like they said it online, but then they were taught something completely different.
Yeah. It was like one church we went to, and I won't name the church, but
we can name it offline.
They were like teaching evolution to be true, and I'm like, whoa, this is like way out there from what your statement of faith was talking about believing the Bible was accurate and had no errors in it. And it's like
more like a theistic evolution.
Yeah. So so anyways, and so when we came across Riverside, that's where we left. But when we came about Southside, we read the statement of faith. We liked what we saw. We did not get a chance to watch it. And I think maybe even Janelle went to a service by herself because I might have been working.
Yep. Yeah, I think she did.
And so she went to the service and she's like, hey, it's a good service. So I went the next week. I was off. And it was just a very welcoming church, right? I think you were one of the first people.
I met you on your first day, man.
Yeah. So you came up, Pastor Scott came up. There were several people that came up.
I knew I made a good choice.
Yeah. And so it was just, it was a very welcoming church. And then, Pastor Scott started preaching, and it was very biblically sound preaching and stuff that, he was really adhering to the Bible more than just his opinion. And then even when he was speaking about opinions, it was well researched with commentators and very well known commentators. It wasn't just some fly off the wall thing. And so that kind of said to us that, hey, we want to keep coming back and keep an eye and watch how things go. And so we went several more months before we actually joined the church. I think it was almost 6 months before we made the decision to actually join the church.
So in that 6 months, was it more of like and I will say, to your credit too, like once you guys joined, that pedal went down.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like it wasn't one of those, you joined and then you guys were just there for 2 years,
sure.
And then we never never got connected, never did this because you didn't do nothing. Like you guys actually got off your butts. Like you guys joined our small group pretty quick.
Yeah, we were looking for a community. That's what we were. I mean, what we came from was a tight knit community where we were family. And when we ended up leaving, there was a lot of hurt with that. There was a lot of church hurt with that, because when we left, it was like we had never existed to that church body. Didn't talk to anybody for years. But Lord has restored some of those relationships as some of those people also later on saw the errors going on in the church and left the church. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, sometimes it just takes time, and takes time to really seek things out, try things out, and like at Southside, we didn't join right away. We were kind of there. We were observing. We were making sure it was going to be a steady flow throughout before we made the commitment. But then once we made the commitment, we're like, no, we're committing to this body. We are joining this body. We are a part of this body, and we're going to act like we're part of this body.
Yep. And I'd say our journey out of Southside was a lot more different than what you did. Because like for us, and this goes in the question of when is it time to leave your church? And so, which is kind of interesting that we accidentally segued into that, just chit-chat. So for you, it was theological. Like it was the fact of you are not teaching the things of Scripture.
Right.
Correct.
Which was funny because I wasn't even super biblically sound myself during that time, but I knew enough
Right.
Like,
well,
no,
you know what the
this is
main
wrong.
things of the faith were. It's like, that's not right. Like, that's not true. And like, for us, the South Side, like, we didn't obviously. Obviously, we did not leave because of theological issues.
Right.
Let's put it that way. But it's very hard to be at a church where you are on staff, and then you are no longer on staff.
Right.
You were married, got divorced, and then started a new family and a new unit of the Hydes, and then still being in the same. I don't want to say the same congregation, but almost. It was just hard.
It was like getting married and buying a house with your former spouse, and then getting a divorce, and then living in that same house with your.
It's just not your house.
Like that's
it was.
Yeah.
And that's
it's
true.
not something you guys did together.
Like Beth and I had that conversation where when we got married, we weren't going to live in our house. Well, obviously, too
small.
You think we were going to fit in that?
No.
But we had the conversation of, is it worth building? But it's like, no, this was mine and my ex's house, not mine and Beth's house.
Yeah, right.
And so as we were building out the church family, let's also call it what it is. Beth came up during COVID, and so she came in, still masks were on. And so it was just weird, And so we were there for a full year while because I was grieving that leave.
Sure.
And Beth was too, to an extent, because she knows how much you mean to me, and Sochet and Scott and all these guys. I mean, shoot, this is where I cut my teeth in ministry for crying out loud.
Right.
And the podcast came out of that church and all those different things. And to this day, Pastor Scott is still one of my pastors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, you're going to his son's wedding next week.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm still in touch with some of my former students. Obviously, still in touch with you. Still in touch with Sochet. I mean, we got Sochet in the podcast group.
Right, absolutely.
We need to get Homeboy back on the pod is what we really need to do. But I'm still in a great relationship with that church. But it was just one of those things for us where it's like we need to find a church where we can go and be the Hydes.
Yeah, you can reestablish yourself.
Yeah,
as a family.
and the church never made. And I'll say this: the church at large never made us feel like Beth was Mark's new wife, and those were the new kids, and it was this weird thing. It was just the fact of, no, these are the Hydes.
Right.
So Laura welcomed Beth in with open arms, and so many other folks did too.
Right.
But it was one of those things for another deer. Oh gosh, man, they just stare at you.
Look at this. He's probably gonna jump out in front of me.
Yeah, go that way.
Yeah.
Go find your mom,
Wait,
baby.
did it stop recording again?
No, it's still recording this time. I didn't hit the stop button. I didn't freak out. But so needless to say, we left on very good terms, but it was just time for us to go and reestablish ourselves at the Hydes.
Right.
And so we were up in northwest side of South Bend, right?
Yeah.
And so there were not a lot of churches up on the northwest side of South Bend. Like I knew of a couple, and that's the other thing too, is for me, I know every church in this area.
Sure.
Like that's just part of the game. Whereas Beth didn't.
Right.
And so for her too, we wanted to figure out what was the right church for us. And
absolutely.
So we checked out lots of websites, and she would look up different churches and be like, not that one because of this, or because of that, or whatever. And so a big couple things though that we had on our list was we wanted it to be. I'll just say what it is. Beth came from a non-denom church, grew up Baptist, but distinctively with the beliefs, I wanted Baptistic beliefs, just because I obviously believe those are the most
Baptistic theology.
Baptistic theology. Now there are differences and opinions within it, but as at its core. And man, everyone has their high beams on. And then the other one though was children's ministry. We wanted a church that wasn't just had kids and there was a place for kids to go, but there was an actual children's ministry, which I know some people, they would rather have their kids in service. And again, nothing wrong with that. Just with our family and our family needs, we felt that was best.
Absolutely.
And then we wanted someone who, if we were going to sit under their teaching, that they actually were a good teacher.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, there's some people who are theologically sound. They have a decent, loving, warm environment, decent kids ministry, but it's like, I don't want to listen to this every single week for an hour.
Monotoned or something.
Right, exactly.
AKA me.
And no one really fell into that category in terms of bad preaching, but I just heard some teachers where I'm like, oof, okay. And then music was a big one though for Beth, because Beth connects her spiritual connection. Music is a huge part of it for her, and so that was another big one. And so we visited a couple of different churches and kind of looked around, and we visited New Life actually pretty dang quick into our church.
Right.
It was a sister church. It was a sister ministry. We were at ECA, and some of best friends went to New Life. So we were like, all right, let's give it a shot. You know, like I've known Pastor Michael for years, and Jake and Pastor Mike, and so let's go give it a shot.
And it's funny because when Pastor Michael's taking a break, he ends up over at Southside.
And New Life planted Southside back in the 50s, so it's cool. But we were at that church for a solid. We were at that church 7 months before we joined.
Yeah.
And the reason is because another big one for us is I want to go to church where we live.
Yeah.
And so I told Michael, I said, if we buy a house like way out in Goshen,
right,
and we're on the other side, even though it's closer to our kids' school, I'm not driving 30 minutes to church when I know there are some great churches in Goshen.
Right.
Oh, what was that?
That's Raccoon.
Okay. There's some great churches in Goshen. I want to be a church in my community, so that way when we invite people from our church over to our house, and we're trying to invite small groups over and build up these relationships, it's not like, oh, you want to come to our house? Oh yeah, it's 50 minutes down the road.
Sure.
Like when we were on the northwest side of South Bend, for some people it was 45 minutes to get to our house.
Right.
And that just wasn't working, man. So for us, like, we want it to be doctrinally sound. We want it to be a place where there actually is community. But there's a lot of things, even with New Life, doctrinally, not primary issues, but I would say like secondary and tertiary issues that Pastor Michael knows I don't agree with.
Sure.
But I'm gonna say, like, he's my pastor. I'm gonna submit to his teaching.
Absolutely.
But we're talking like end time stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but even Scott, like, you know, they're pre-trib dispensational, whereas we're more on the covenant side.
Partial preterist.
Yeah, you know, post-trib. But does that stuff really matter when you talk to him? It's like, no, Jesus is coming back and he will rule and reign. That's it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go. And there's some other things too, but I'm like, you know, those are preferences, not doctrine or dogma.
Well,
like,
it is doctrine, but it's not primary doctrine.
Correct. But I mean more so of like personal political beliefs or personal how different things work in the world, or things like that, where it's one of those things where it's like you have your personal beliefs or secondary issues that, you know, do they really matter or not? No, it's a great church with great people. Absolutely love having Michael as my pastor, and he is my pastor, dude. And so he's absolutely great. And I will say, it took us a little bit to start serving in the church, because when we first came to church, Michael flat out came to me, dude, and this was a big win for them. He said, take all the time you need, because I know what you guys just came from.
Right.
You guys have been in ministry. You guys are trying to build your family. He goes, and he literally said the word, dude, just sit and marinate, bro.
Sure.
Just marinate in the new life. Get to know the people. Get to know the folks. Start getting connected. Get plugged in when you're ready. And of course, he encouraged us, where it's like, you know, get involved in a small group if you guys are able to.
Yeah.
So I eventually joined the men's prayer group, and Beth has been in a connect group since we've been there. And then I've been doing Olympians, which is our version of Awana, for the last 2 years.
Yep.
And we've done VBS for the last couple of years, and now I'm actually going back up to youth group, by the way. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you did. Yep.
Yeah, they recruit me to go back up to youth group, so you boys getting upgraded back to junior high boys. We getting there. Oh goodness. But yeah, so when we were choosing churches, like, that's what went through our heads.
Yeah.
And so when we left Southside, very different for you. We left because it was time for us. We moved houses, we built a new family. It was time for us to find a church that was for Beth and I and the kids.
Yeah.
Not one that was me, and then Beth kind of came in. Let's find something to build our family together.
Sure.
Whereas for you, it was doctrinally.
Right.
And so I guess the question that we can bring back to the pod, because we just been, you know, conversation, chit chat.
I mean, that's what it is, right? It's conversation.
Yeah.
Car conversations with RTC.
Car conversations on the road, bro. So with people who are listening, and they're like, they're trying to figure out, do I leave the church? Do I not? You know, because sometimes it's like, well, I don't really like the music, or I'm not a big fan of the way the pastor preaches,
or maybe the children's ministry.
Or the children's ministry isn't as good as what it needs. Like, are there valid reasons outside of getting married, or doctrine, that would be a healthy church transfer? Not a church shopper, but a healthy church transfer.
Yeah, and again, I think there is validity and moving churches, kind of like with what your story was, right? It wasn't a doctrinal issue.
Nope.
It was a little bit of married stuff, but not really. because you guys had been at Southside for like close to a year.
We were there for a year, and to Beth's credit, like, she gave it a go, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We gave it a go, but it was just...
It was a reestablishment of your family, your core unit, together in finding your body together.
And I will say, I sought out a lot of counsel.
Sure.
You and I had some good conversations about it. Devin and I had some good conversations about it. And so I felt like we left well.
Yeah.
I feel like we left. I even sat down with Scott at Panera.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, here's just where we're at. And he was like, obviously sad.
Sure.
But he goes, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And that's the big thing. If you do decide you're going to leave, is do your best to remain at peace with all men, right? That's one of the commands that we have. And, you know, if it's doctrinal, you know, definitely have the conversation with the pastoral staff, with leadership, to see if maybe you're misunderstanding, or maybe they are wrong, right? And then at that point, I would suggest prayerfully considering what's going on before you up and leave. If it's something like what your story is, I would still have the conversation with the pastoral staff to get the blessing. You know, you don't want to leave on bad terms or just up and leave and not show back up, because it does hurt people. It does hurt relationships that you've had maybe in that church. And so having those conversations, I know a lot of pastors, at least the ones that I know, really do care about the people that they are teaching. And
I sure hope so.
Well, I mean, you know, there's some that probably care more just about the Sunday service, don't really know you from Adam, you know. But there's some that really do care and want to get to know each and every person that comes to their church. And Scott is definitely one of those people.
That dude remembers people's names.
I don't know how he does
We
it.
were at Mancino's once, and he popped out this person's name. He hasn't seen him in like a decade.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, bro.
Yeah, he's crazy.
I can't remember your name.
Crazy with
You
the
just told
names.
me it.
So it's just...
He loves and he cares.
Yeah, absolutely. He cares about everybody. And so, like, somebody like him, if you got a pastor like him, but you're thinking about leaving for this, that, or the other, you know, it's a courtesy to them. It's a courtesy to say, listen, it's not I'm leaving, but it's not because of you. It's because of this, that, or the other. Like in your situation, because I have to reestablish a church family and a bond with that church family as the Hydes, as they are now.
Yep.
The Hyde family. So, you know, it's just one of those things that I think is really helpful. And it's really helpful to go out with a blessing and knowing that there's no bad relationship. And that's how you can still have relationships with people at Southside. I think had you just upped and left, it probably would have hurt a lot of people's feelings, and you probably wouldn't have the same response. But because you went and you talked to Pastor Scott, you talked to others, I think that is why people just say, yeah, Mark just needed to move on because he has a family, and his family needed to establish themselves in a church. And everybody understood that.
And it helped that we moved into the backyard of
absolutely,
New Life.
absolutely. But you guys had already moved to New Life when you were still on the northwest side.
Yep, but we didn't join until we moved. And once we moved, that next week, I'm like, all right, Michael, sign us up. Let's go.
Yep.
All right, so going into the last part of the conversation then with, and I don't know if this person has an unsaved spouse or a saved spouse, and they just don't want to go.
Sure.
But the question is, how do you handle going to church when your spouse does not want to go?
Well,
but I've never had to experience that firsthand.
If your spouse is unsaved, we'll start there. That's the easier topic.
Yep.
You know, Paul encourages those who become saved and their spouse is unsaved to remain as they are, and as they may be the light that brings them to Jesus. And I think it's important that you continue to go to church to be plugged into that body. Don't be discouraged that your spouse may not be. Look for opportunities to present the gospel to them, and continue to cover them in prayer. Prayer is a powerful weapon, and the Holy Spirit can cut to the heart of any man. And I think it's important to continue to build those relationships and still treat your spouse with dignity and respect. And then hopefully one day they will be able to meet Christ and accept him as their Lord and Savior. With the saved person, that comes to be a little bit harder because they really should be involved with the body, and you really should be involved with the body together as a spouse. And so that's a tough conversation. I think what you could do, I would encourage you to and maybe talk to your spouse and explain how important it is to you that you go together, right? That you want to be a unified family, and that you believe that church is important for your family core structure. And I would have them or encourage them to come with you and to join you with that, to make new friends, to establish yourself as a family in that congregation, in that body, and then I would go into that conversation heavily prayed up, and not rub their nose into it or try to guilt trip them into coming to church. Some people, though they may be saved, may be, what's that old term? Backslidden.
That's an old Baptist term for you, bro.
Yeah, backslidden. Maybe they're not following God as they should at this time, but they still believe in God and know God. And sometimes it just takes a little time in prayer and God to touch and move their heart, and for Him to open their eyes and, again, have those conversations. But really, it's just establishing the covenant of marriage of being one and leaning upon that oneness as an encouragement to your spouse that, how important it is to you, and you would love for them to join you in this journey together.
And that's it. Like for someone who's married to a believer, my first question is just, well, why don't they want to come?
Right.
And normally this is going to sound harsh, normally there's some excuse. Well, I just don't like it. I just don't enjoy it. I've been hurt in the past, and
sure.
churches are full of a bunch of hypocrites and this, that, and
absolutely.
the other. Which is true.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree.
Which is why we need to be at church.
Yep. That's why we need Jesus.
Right. And so for someone who is married to a believer and their believer doesn't want to come to church, I almost wonder, because I don't know, maybe RTC people, you guys can let me know, I almost wonder if that's harder than being married to an unbeliever.
Yeah, I'm sure it
not
is.
Going to church. Now I had a lot of friends and people that served under me in the student ministry and another ministry at the church where they were believers and their husbands or their wife, spouse, whatever, were not saved, and they felt lonely.
Yeah.
At church.
Yeah.
And
well, and it opens the door for Satan too, for both parties. I mean, if you're at church by yourself, it opens that up to feelings of bitterness.
And that's exactly where my brain went too, is with that feeling of, well, everyone else has a spouse here.
Yeah,
which is my mom being, a single woman going to church, she says, like, sometimes being a single person at church is a very lonely experience.
Yeah.
Because you look around, you see all these spouses, and my mom, fun fact, at our old church, they had Wednesday night prayer group.
Yeah.
My mom wouldn't go, or she would dip when it was time to pray, because then it was, all right, partner up, find someone to pray with, and everyone's spouses would turn to each other, and she's like, well, I guess nobody's for me, I'm going to leave now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not right. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But for folks who has an unsaved partner, it's hard because they don't want things of the faith. And so you kind of are the backbone of that, and it can be discouraging, and it just encourage you to, find someone to, like, it sounds dumb, but find someone to do that life with while you're at church, and to sit with, or to start serving, or plug it in, because the best way to stop feeling bad about yourself is to start looking towards other people.
Yeah.
But if your spouse is someone who just does not want to go to church, I think it's time to have some hard conversations and figure out, like, really, why don't you want to go? What's holding you back? And it could be as simple as they're complacent or lazy. Like that could be it.
Yep.
It could be as simple as they were hurt in the past and it's full of hypocrites and they just don't want to be there because they don't see the point of it anymore. Or it could be some deep-seated hurt that you just don't know about.
Sure.
But I feel like it goes back to the conversation of, if your spouse doesn't want to go to church with you, my first question is why? And then the question I would have is, could you find a church that maybe you both enjoy?
Yeah.
That or maybe not enjoy, but like okay, there's some big mega churches in our area, right?
Sure.
That you and I naturally would not go to. But if that was the only church my spouse would go to,
I'd be there in a heartbeat.
I'd be there in a heartbeat.
I would hope they would get some doctrine in them by reading scripture, and not want to go there eventually. But
right.
I'd go with them.
Right, but just it's more of, if And if you can pour your heart out and say, this is why going to church is important with me, especially as a family, for our kids, for our marriage, for our relationship, all these different things, I think that's a big, good conversation to have. It's a hard one, but it's a good one. So, oh, goodness.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
It has been a long day.
So I think we can land the plane on this conversation. We talked a lot about different church stuff.
Absolutely.
But is there anything else that popped in your mind while we were chatting that you're like, I should have said this?
It's just an encouragement of be gentle in your dealings with people, especially when it considered church things. Whether you're looking at relocating because of church hurt or bad doctrine or just reestablish yourself, be considerate when you're talking to people. If you're the one talking to people that are leaving, be considerate, be loving, send them out with love, hold peace as much as you can. If it's a spouse, again, be as loving and as gentle as you can. Talk about the values that you would like to see established in your marriage, and church being one of them. And I think that's one that I think you obey the higher authority at the end of the day. And if they still refuse to go, even after a conversation, you continue to go. I would also start surrounding yourself with a good group of people to keep you from harvesting the bitterness in your heart. If you're hanging around people that are just telling you how no good your spouse is because they won't come to church with you, those are probably the people you don't want.
Those are not people you want to be with.
Because now they're making you divisive. And I think there's no place in the church for divisiveness.
But then there's also, that old quote of a house. What was
house divided will never stand.
Yeah, but I think that's is that a scripture?
That's a scripture. Yeah.
Abe Lincoln was popular for it. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Which is your house, is your marriage.
Which is Jesus responding to the Pharisees when they said that he was doing the works of Beelzebub.
Oh, yes.
So that's where that.
Talk about the unpardonable sin. Is that part about the unpardonable sin?
Well, that was same passage where he's talking about that. Yes.
But the same goes true with marriage. Like if you guys are not on the same page, it's going to be really hard for that house to start standing.
Absolutely. And so I would just encourage you, as you're doing these dealings with different people in different situations, be as loving and as gentle as you can. You may not agree with them, and that's okay. Just remember that you are a peacemaker, right? We're called to make peace and bring the gospel of peace to people. And you have to do the best you can to show them the love of Christ and the Word of God. And if they refuse, that is between them and the Lord, ultimately. And you have to be okay with letting the Lord do what he wants with that situation.
Love it. Well, my dude, thanks for another good conversation, my guy.
Absolutely.
Time for us to pull into the house.
Yeah, we're about 15 minutes out.
15 minutes out. Yeah, pray for that we don't meet any more deer between now and then. That'd be awful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We love you all. And until next time,
take it easy.